Don't worry about the language. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back to another edition of Muzzy Buzz. For those of you that are new here, my name is Mort and I am the host of Muzzy Buzz, and I'm also the co-host of The Mad Mamluks. So if you're new here and you're watching the videos, and if you gain any benefit at all, make sure you hit the subscribe button and also make sure you hit the bell so you are notified every time I go live or make new content. So this video is a response video to a video made by an individual by the name of Introverted Smiles. And in this video that he released, he is essentially issuing Naseehah to Mohammed Hijab, like Naseehah as a murtad, but from the Islamic lens. Like, I don't know what that means. I mean, maybe he's trying to relate to Mohammed Hijab by using this Islamic attitude and references that he gives in his talk. But let's take a look at a few of the clips, because I don't necessarily disagree with everything that he says, but there are a few things that I think need some clarification, and also I think some of them are just dead wrong. So let's have a look at the first clip that we're going to talk about, and then we'll go through the rest of them. Let's have a look.
Islam has a narrative of, if you insult us, we're going to be really harsh with you. We don't turn the other cheek, and we're going to be really aggressive. We're going to show you that same aggression back.
All right, so in this video, he starts saying that Muslims have to always be really aggressive if anybody insults Islam. And unfortunately, that's not the case. I mean, there are some Muslims who are very aggressive, and generally it tends to be when there are people who are encouraging this anti-Muslim attitude, and they are very fierce in their criticism, and not even criticism necessarily, but mockery of Islam. And with those individuals, yes, the attitude is going to be different. I think that's normal for anybody. If you are encountering somebody who is extremely hostile to anything that you hold dear, you're probably going to not want to treat them with respect. You're probably going to want to deal with them in a very harsh manner. That doesn't mean that anybody is advocating violence or anything like that, but what it means is that your attitude towards them is not going to be a kind one, because their attitude towards yours is not kind. But it doesn't mean anybody that just criticizes Islam. There are many critics of Islam that do it from an academic lens, and they do it from a paradigm that's essentially different than what these Islamophobes are doing it from. They're operating from a different point. You know, you can't compare the two. Like, if you want to look at a scholar who is, criticizing the authenticity of the Quran, and he's trying to go back and go through manuscripts and argues, and he doesn't believe that the Quran is divinely inspired and that he isn't, a secular person. Well, yes, he's critiquing the Quran, and yes, he may even make statements like, oh, Muhammad wrote it, or this companion wrote it, or it was copied from the Torah, or whatever else other claims they make. It doesn't mean we're going to say, he's critiquing Islam, khalas, we're going to cut his head off and, go after him and insult him and degrade him. No, we've been through many people who have done this, and we don't treat them that way. There are certain individuals, like, for example, Salman Rushdie, right, who goes out of his way to intentionally insult and mock and target the Muslims. Now, I'm not saying that I agree with any kind of violence towards the man or anything like that, but certainly we don't view him in a positive light. And I would, if I had a conversation, I wouldn't respect him. I would give him the respect that he gave me. And that means that he was insulting me. So likewise, I would treat him harshly. Why would I be nice and kind to somebody like that? It makes absolutely no sense. And so the main point of this is that we don't just treat everybody harshly. Anybody who has an opposition to Islam. That's not how we operate. It's very specific people whose life mission and every waking moment on this planet Earth is to talk about Muslims and to mock them. Those are the individuals that we have a very different attitude towards. So just a clarification on that matter.
He was man haddallaha wa rasulah. He was a person who was not he was not a person who's just a disbeliever. Mm-hmm. A disbeliever, even if they vocalize their disbelief, you don't have any reason to be horrible to them or to speak badly to them. But
I feel like Mohammed Hijab changed here in a sense, because like on Twitter, him and Ali Dawa are just going around saying pusillanimous and everything. I think the power trip got to them a little bit, like having more followers and this and that. And they keep, putting out a tweet every once in a while, working on my harshness and stuff. But the reality is that this is what Islam does to you.
Okay, so you see in this clip where he says, well, first of all, Mohammed Hijab makes it very clear that if there's someone who's just minding their business and they're just general kuffar or murtads who don't really attack Islam or make it their mission or, just basically just don't obsess over the Muslims, there's no problem. They can, go about their merry way. Nobody's gonna bother them. Nobody cares. We don't really care. It's not like we keep a tally of, let's see how many ex-Muslims there are today. Let's make a list of them and keep a tally and see what they're doing. Let's find out what they're doing. Nobody cares about this. These people have brought attention on themselves. So Mohammed Hijab is not really changing when he insults a apostate prophet. Because again, this goes back to the original point. The apostate prophet is not innocent. He's pretty much made a career out of mocking and insulting Muslims. It's not just like, he announced on YouTube, hey guys, I'm an ex-Muslim. I don't believe in Islam anymore. For these reasons, 1, 2, and 3. That's it. I'm done. I really don't care. But he goes out of the way to not only attack Islam, but to mock the Muslims, to also invite other people who mock the Muslims, interview them, facilitate, videos for them. So he's an active enemy of the Muslims, meaning that he actually engages in trying to, insult us and to mock us. And so naturally, the feeling of animosity is going to be there. But what is more interesting to me is that towards the end of the clip, he went out and said, that's what Islam does to you. And I don't know where he's getting that from. There's a very clear ayah in the Quran. And if you go to surah number 60, which is Al-Mumtahana, there's an ayah here. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم أن تبروهم وتقسطوا إليهم إن الله يحب المقسطين. And it's clear. Allah does not forbid you from those who did not fight you because of your religion and did not expel you from your homes, from being righteous towards them and acting justly towards them. Indeed, Allah loves those who act justly. So essentially here what we're saying is that there are enemies of Islam, right, who are clear and open, who are fighting you. And that could mean in terms of physically, it could mean financially, it could mean by words. I mean, obviously, we can retaliate with our words. We can retaliate against them and defend our positions. And essentially, this is what apostate prophet is doing. If he was, just minding his business and just became an apostate and made a couple commentaries here and there, nobody would care. Okay, whatever, go away. Nobody minds, whatever. Okay, that's your opinion. Some people might say he's fake or whatever. Who cares? At the end of the day, he wouldn't be a big deal. But he throws himself into the center of it. and wants to be the attention of it and profit from that. And then on top of that, disseminate lies. You and I both know that the apostate prophet has lied many times about Islam. And I'm sure even Introverted Smiles, as an ex-Muslim, knows that, or probably has caught the apostate prophet lying more than a few occasions. So I think you can begin to understand why he becomes a target, right? So yes, the name calling is there. And likewise, the name calling on the other side is also there. They make nicknames. For example, like they call Ali Dawa, they use dimwit, right? So why is it okay for one side to be able to become, extremely aggressive? And then when the Muslim responds, it becomes, you should control yourself. What kind of example are you setting? Things like this, right? I don't understand that whole premise. So anyways, let's go on into the next clip.
It makes you more irrational. And this is under the guise of ghira. These guys think they have ghira, which is to have honor and respect and jealousy for Muhammad. Like to defend him, defend his honor, and to speak out. Right now, Mohammed Hijab's latest tweet was commanding the Twitter army to bash apostate prophet and his wife and his loved ones and any of these apostates. So it's clear to me, being a former Salafi, you're not just okay with anybody disbelieving. You're not. Just tell the truth.
Okay, so in this clip, you see him say, Mohammed Hijab is commanding this Twitter army to launch an offensive against apostate prophet on Twitter, as if the hellfire is going to descend upon him, like the hand of God is going to descend, as if Mohammed Hijab has like this just army on standby waiting to, attack on any given moment. Like, why are you blowing this out of proportion, dude? This is not like a military campaign. People respect Mohammed Hijab because they've respected what he's done in the past and even now. And even you have said later on in this video that you, in this video itself, you said that you admired, or at least were cool with the way that Mohammed Hijab was in 2006 and 2007, and when he really blew up and he was really getting involved in the debates. You actually praised him for that. So likewise, Muslims naturally looked up to him. Some other people on Twitter, they admired the work that he was doing, and so they respect his opinion. Just like when David Wood, asked people to, draw a cartoon of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or when the apostate prophet goes on and encourages people to eat pages of the Quran, right? I mean, this kind of thing, that's not commanding your followers to do things. Again, why is it okay that one side can do it, and yet when the other side says, hey, listen, Muslim Twitter, it's time to respond, right? You have a bunch of atheists that are coming out, tweeting and donating, and then, leaving comments on Mohammed Hijab's videos and calling him kinds of names, golden shower boy, all kinds of things. This is not one-sided. Right? But it seems to me that you are trying to advise only one side. It makes no sense to me. I know you're trying to come off like you're not biased, dude, but your bias is 100% evident. Anybody watching this video who's been following this saga can tell you that you have a clear bias in this. No matter how genuine you try to sound, it's passive aggressive. And this is part of the problem. You have two different standards. You will put the atheist on a lower standard, and you will put the Muslim on the higher standard. And I don't, if that's an inferiority complex that you have, that's fine, but let's level the playing field. If it's good for the Muslim, it's good for the atheist in terms of debate, right? So I don't know why you're changing the standard here. And then towards the end, you said, just admit it, man. You don't like when people leave Islam. You can't handle that. You're forced to act this way. No, that's not true. There have been many people who have apostated from Islam, and they're unknown to us. Like, we don't really care. We know that they left Islam, and it's like whatever. There have been celebrities. There have been other people. There have been people for example, Zayn Malik in the UK. Apparently he had left Islam, right? Or did anyone go and say, "Oh, bash him, take him down, Twitter army, go after him, target him"? Nobody does this stuff. You're delusional if you think that. I don't know. You said you were a Salafi Muslim. I don't know what kind of Salafis you were hanging out with. Maybe Salafi jihadis. I don't know what you were hanging out with. But the most normal Muslims don't obsess over who's a Muslim and who is not a Muslim. We don't wake up every day with a tally sheet wondering, gee, I wonder who apostated today. Let's go find out so we can go stalk them on Twitter. Nobody thinks like this, dude. You're feeding into this fear narrative. You know, this notion of, oh my God, Muslims are out to get us. This whole boogeyman narrative. Stop this thinking. All right? I mean, maybe you were in this negative framework or negative environment. And that's not majority of the Muslims. This is specifically directed toward people that are encouraging other people to insult and mock Muslims. And so naturally, he is going to respond and say, Muslims, defend yourselves. And you can defend yourselves with tweets, with videos like I'm doing right now. You can, comment or issue refutations. That's a natural part of discourse, especially when you're inviting that upon yourself. So again, calm down with the fear mongering and this narrative that Muslims are just obsessed with whoever is a Muslim and who's not a Muslim. This us versus them thing. No one cares, dude. The average Muslim doesn't really care. Actually, the average Muslim right now doesn't even know who apostate prophet is. Only people that are busy on YouTube. You think out of 1.8 billion Muslims in the world today, majority of them even know who apostate prophet is? Nobody cares, dude. It's only a big deal to you because people like you make money off of this stuff. This is your entertainment. This is your pastime. This is your revenue stream, right? It's not that way it's not that important for other people, right? So anyways, let's go on to the next clip.
I know white people tend to say, oh, you're going to react with violence because I talk about you? And then they wonder why they get slapped in the face. Like some people have that philosophy of chat crap and then get slapped. I totally get that. I totally understand that. But what constitutes as insulting? What constitutes as mockery?
So in this clip, you see that he is saying that he understands the philosophy that if somebody goes overboard, that people can react emotionally or maybe even physically. Not that I'm encouraging any of that, but according to him, he believes that he understands, he empathizes with that philosophy. But then he goes on to say, well, what is offensive, right? Well, again, here's the problem, right? I think you're ignoring again what they're doing. Don't you think that mocking a religious figure who people love more than their families, more than their mothers and their wives, is crossing the line? Or drawing him a picture of the Prophet ﷺ when you know that Muslims don't like that? Or wearing a dress and fabricating hadith, right, about the Prophet ﷺ, or for example, burning the Quran or eating the Quran or drilling holes in the Quran. You don't think that stuff is offensive? Of course it's offensive. And at the same time, you guys are complaining about somebody insulting somebody's wife who actually is aiding him in these kinds of arguments and insults, and you're taking that to mean that it is offensive. Like that is offensive. Well, I can turn around and ask you the same question, Introverted Smiles. Well, why is that offensive? Why is that truly offensive? It's just a person. It's just an individual. I mean, so yeah, it's your family, but it's just a person. There's no physical harm to them. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Just block their tweets. Don't read their tweets. Right? I mean, I can turn the argument back on you and ask you, what is the big deal? Now, obviously, you're intelligent enough to know that people hold certain things dear and sacred to them. Likewise, the Muslims do. So I don't understand why this point is even relevant. Like why you're even bringing it up. You're smarter than this, dude. Don't make these dumb arguments. Anyways, let's go on to the next point.
I think Mohammed Hijab makes everything so vague that his followers, who are young, hot-blooded youth, they don't know how to handle this type of answer.
All right, so in this clip, he's saying that Mohammed Hijab should be more cautious because there are young people who are overzealous and they're hot-blooded, and they may not know how to process this information and emotions that they're feeling, and perhaps maybe Mohammed Hijab should not be as vague and general in his attacks and suggestions. Now, I don't entirely disagree that there are young people that are easily impressionable. Like they are, it's easy for us to influence them in many ways, of course. But Mohammed Hijab has repeatedly, over and over, even Ali Dawah repeatedly, over and over, they have said that nobody should do violence. We categorically, are against any violence against any person, apostate, not apostate, whatever. It's not the business of the individual to do anything. I don't know how many more times I need to be clear. If somebody is telling you violence is not the way to go, and that somebody takes that to mean violence is the way to go, well, I don't know what's going to help that person anyways. To me, that means the person or the individual already had a commitment in his mind or conviction that he was going to go commit an act of violence, because obviously he's rejecting the advice of the individual, right? So that's the first point. Secondly, the same thing can be said for the apostate prophet. Why is it not turned on him or atheists like him that are encouraging this hatred and demonization of Muslims and encouraging them to mock them and just go on Mohammed Hijab's live stream. Go to some of my videos. Look at the comments. Look at the hatred, right? Look at all that. You don't think that those young people also need guidance? You don't think that they are going to grow up in a world of hate and animosity? Just earlier in another video, I posted a conversation between Arab atheists who were from, some group, and they were talking about how they want to actually go and kill Muslims and rid the world of Islam. And it would be an act of charity. Like, this is the kind of conversation they're having. But I don't see any atheists openly condemning this and coming out and saying, hey, don't behave that way. That's crossing the line. Don't do that. Don't encourage young people. Even if you're joking, that might make young people take it the wrong way. I don't see you making the same argument. Again, the standard is not the same. Where is this criticism on your end? Not one. Not one criticism. And that's the problem. So again, I asked you, Introverted Smiles, have you went out and advised any of these people to stop enticing all this hatred? Have you ever commented anything or reply or left a comment in any of your videos, or addressed it to your subscribers and have told them in the comment section not to behave that way? If not, well, don't you have a responsibility? Don't you have a conscience? I can easily turn the same question onto you, and I'm not sure what your answer is going to be. But anyways, let's go on to the next clip.
Even in Islam, you're not really supposed to be cursing and using foul language, but they go about doing that anyways.
Okay, so I don't generally disagree with what he's saying here. In general, he is correct. In Islam, you are supposed to use the best of speech and invite with good language and good character, with adab and akhlaq, and in the best of speech. Of course, we know that. But there's one fundamental thing that you're missing. And that is that in times where there were very harsh enemies of Islam, even in words, the Prophet himself at some times, and even the companions in front of the Prophet ﷺ, said some vulgar things to the ones who were attacking the honor of the Prophet ﷺ and insulting the Muslims. Sometimes you have to deal with the enemy or the opposition as they treat you. Otherwise, you're not going to get through to them. There were some people who were ignored, who were just said, okay, you know what, they're crazy, or Allah will deal with them, and it was like isolated incidences. But in this particular case, Mohammed Hijab is responding to people like David Wood, and Apostate Prophet, and the long list of them who go out and make repeated attempts and try to push the envelope to see who can be more offensive. And they know very well that we are limited in what we can say and what we can do. Because in Islam, we're not going to curse Christianity. We're not going to curse Judaism. We're not going to, curse the Bible. We're not going to curse their prophets. We're not going to curse their son of God or whatever they believe to be. We're not going to do that. And they know that. So they're trying to use these arguments to, trigger and to try to enrage and to, essentially make the Muslims more upset so that they do respond. They're trying to entrap them into responding. And that is a very, very disgusting technique. I don't have to explain this to you. You see it firsthand. You just made a video talking about how you feel like most of these conversations that in the ex-Muslim community are pretty stupid. It's just, I can tell you're even getting tired of it. So much so to the point that you even want to get rid of this ex-Muslim label. I don't think that it's a secret here, right? The conversation is meaningless. There is no conversation. It's just a game of insults. How can we provoke them even more? How can we anger them even more? That's the name of the game. It's not about now delivering the truth to anybody or trying to wish well on them. That as much as anybody can claim that, as much as they want to say that, very well that there is a large faction of these people that have no other objective besides just pissing off the Muslims, because out of pure hatred. And I think that's a very sad and unfortunate situation where there can't be an elevated discussion about certain topics within Islam, because Muslims are very open to having those dialogues and those discussions. But it feels like that individuals don't want to have that kind of civilized discussion, and they'd rather play this kind of game. Okay, so that's all I have for part 1 of this response video. So if you benefited at all and you like the content, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified every time I release a new video or go live. Also, remember that we are live every Sunday at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern, and we have a new Patreon page. So go over to Patreon. The link will be down below. There are different tiers, and different tiers will get different benefits. You can go to the Patreon link and check it out. But there will be exclusive content and early releases and special live sessions offered through Patreon. So make sure you go check it out. If you can't become a member, I know not everybody can afford to, and we're in a tough time, but if you can't, that's not a problem at all. Just subscribing and liking and hitting the bell on these videos is great. It would mean a lot to me anyways, and your sincere dua. So I appreciate everyone that watches and supports and help me grow my channel, and I am really indebted to all of you that have helped me along the way making this channel. So until next time, let's talk about it. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.